Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the Overflow. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hatman.
And for those of you who are not in the know, this is the show where we go over all the questions that we sadly were not able to get to during our podcast this week. And before we get started, how long has it been since I have bragged about food?
Bragged about food?
Yes.
God. I can't even remember. So it must have been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've, shown off what I'm eating. So, gosh, it's hot. So, earlier on Twitter, I was complaining about the fact that I can't have sandwiches. And I was craving a chicken bacon ranch with cheese. But what I did instead was I settled on a middle ground, sort of. I have ranch chicken with cheddar. I'll move my camera here so people can see it. With a side of bacon. And then I'll have a salad too. Probably with ranch dressing on it. But no bread.
I won't say anything.
Just say it.
Chicken fillet.
This is actually a really good recipe, so I'm not too worried.
No, fair enough. Okay. Then I will eat my sandwich in peace then.
See, I will say, I'm getting a little bored of cooking because I've been doing it every single day for the last 50 days or so. No, month and a half, 45 days. So it's getting a little boring, I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, I know enough good recipes that when I cook, as I'm eating or as I'm smelling it, I am not regretting the decision to cook. Alright. And also, I want to apologize to the audience if I seem a little bit slow. It's because I have not slept since... Gosh. Once it hits about 9 o'clock, it'll have been 24 hours. And it might end up being that before I fall asleep. So, I don't know why, I just cannot fall asleep for the life of me. So, let's go ahead and get to it. Hatman, you always decide, so go right ahead. Politics or entertainment? Where do we start this week?
I'm feeling entertainment. Let's do that.
Alright, not a lot of them this week, only 3, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Eclectic 1995 says, do you think that in 20 to 40 years from now that people will be rebooting original shows, movies, and games of the 2000s in the current decade? Probably.
Yeah, probably. I've been saying for a very long time that if there's any property from this generation that is going to be rebooted at some point, it's going to be Harry Potter.
Oh yes, and
That's
it will probably be insufferable.
They'll have a Black Hermione. You can quote me on that, and I would put money on it.
Yeah, they've been wanting to do something like that for ages.
Yeah, when they do the inevitable Harry Potter remakes or reboots or what, probably just be a remake. But it will have a Black Hermione.
It'll be a black trans named Hismine.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Black trans midget.
Oh no. Oh god, is that going to be the new hip thing to be in the future?
Oh, absolutely. It wouldn't surprise me. Everybody wants to be Tyrion Lannister.
Well, to be fair, I would definitely fucking be Tyrion Lannister. I could drink and know things.
I would just like to pimp walk up to a stand at a court case personally, but so but yeah, needless to say, yeah, it's gonna happen. It wouldn't surprise me if they tried to reboot Game of Thrones or something along those lines as well. But yeah, it's destined to happen, and especially with video games. You know, we're gonna talk about E3 on the podcast. Entertainment will probably be solely dedicated to it, and the one game that kind of stole the show for me was Resident Evil 2's remake.
Huh.
So there's the possibility that you can really go back to square one, and kind of rehash an old idea, and really bring it to its full potential, because at the time it might have been limited by technology. So that's just my thoughts on it. I don't think that remakes are necessarily a bad thing.
Imagine a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake with the technology of the future.
Absolutely. I would love it.
Yeah. It'd be pretty good. As long as Konami doesn't fuck it up.
Fair point. Alright. Swordsman 100 wanted to know, thoughts on Bendis making a planet of good symbiotes. IMO, it allowed symbiotes to have a morality scale instead of just evil.
Bendis being Bendis.
Well, let's be frank on something. Brian Michael Bendis' Guardians of the Galaxy run was trash. It really was. It was pretty trash. With that said, I'm okay with the symbiotes being more of like tabula rasas, in the sense that they could be good or evil. So I'm not necessarily against it. I just wish that run had been written better, really. So, but
it's Bendis being Bendis.
Yeah, it's Bendis. That's all I can really say about it. It's Bendis. But yeah, I'm not against it. Just if it had been done better, I would have been happier. What do you think, Hatman? I know you probably didn't read the run, but what do you think of just the concept?
The idea just sounds like Bendis being Bendis. I mean, I'm not opposed to there being like, good symbiotes, just like bad symbiotes, just like, morally gray symbiotes. I don't care, but the idea that there's just a planet of them exclusively, it just sounds like Bendis being fucking Bendis.
Well, it had been established before Bendis. They did a arc called Planet of the Symbiotes long before that. And basically what Bendis did was he retconned all of it.
Okay, so it's definitely him being Bendis.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what he's best at, retcons.
Oh, yeah.
God.
He's doing the same thing in Superman, too, already.
Uh-huh.
And, I'm doing a new show called Comics Crusade that I'm going to put together tomorrow, and I don't have that many good things to say about Bendis' Man of Steel. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I'm not going to spoil it for the audience, but the book is super decompressed. Super decompressed. And it's like, I think to myself, it's like the previous writers on Superman could have done what he's doing right now in 2 issues. Ugh. Fuck Bendis. Fuck Bendis.
Remember when you could do a comic arc in 3 issues?
Yes. I miss those days.
I do too.
I remember I was reading old Avengers comics before the Kree Skrull War arc. Or was it might have been that or Operation Galactic Storm. I can't remember which one it was, but it was like Quicksilver, Vision, and Wanda in the Savage Land. It was a 3-issue arc, and it was packed with as much action and character development as like a 6 to 8 issue story is now. And I'm like, dear God, holy shit.
I'm surprised they hadn't gone back to that model anyway, given how short people's attention spans are nowadays.
Because nobody knows how to write it. That's the problem. The only
then
person
they need to fucking get good.
It's
really not that difficult.
I would agree.
It's not that difficult.
Well, there's just not many people who choose to do it because they everybody writes for trades these days. So the only person I know that's really good at kind of compressing his stories a little bit better is Robert Kirkman, which is why I like Invincible so much. It's a much more condensed, and he still would do 6-issue arcs, but you felt like you got a lot more out of those stories than you did with other comics.
Oh yeah, like he's a good example of someone who can do both. He's just a really fucking good writer anyway. I mean, long form is even good. Walking Dead, of course, needs a fucking introduction.
Yeah.
But like, just even the 3-issue arc, man. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a short story as opposed to a novella, I guess.
Yeah, and not every comic book arc needs to be this giant sweeping fucking epic for people to be interested in it. I mean, Mike Costa's Venom, most of the arcs were 3 or 4 issues. And
that's good.
Yeah, Costa's another guy who can do that. I wish he was less of a jackass as a human being, but he's a very talented writer in that respect. But needless to say, that yeah, I miss that. I really do. There's very few writers that I feel can decompress a story and really keep me interested from issue to issue. Like Jonathan Hickman, I think is the one that's probably the best at it.
Mm.
But Hickman's a rare talent, a very rare talent. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Hardboiled Entertainment says DC has by and large avoided SJW crap, except for Batgirl. I strongly suspect that DC throwing SJWs a bone to shut them up and avoid corrupting their main line of comics. Thoughts on this idea? I don't agree. I think a lot of people have been saying that DC is full of just as many lefties as Marvel is. The difference is that the executives at Warner Brothers, they like money more so than Marvel's executives do. Like Disney seems to be much more hands off on Marvel Comics than DC or Warner Brothers is on DC. With that said, here's something you need to keep in mind. I said this on Twitter. I don't remember who it was to. Let me pull it up. And I know that Hatman, I know you don't like it when I name people, but I'll keep his name separate. I'll just say what he said because the idea is what's more important. Okay, he says here, the gay kiss moment in the Last of Us 2 trailer is like simultaneously this nice thing for representation and simply a precisely inserted moment in the commercial for a product that a focus group showed would influence audiences to buy. How do we unpack that? And here's what I had to say about it. It's almost like the gay community, trademark, it's actually an AJ Styles reference there because I'm a huge wrestling fan, but let themselves become a marketing strategy for corporations in the desperate attempt at making everyone feel bad for not agreeing with how they live. And it's the truth. Being gay or being progressive is marketing. It has no meaning to a company.
Well, there's a difference between pushing it and just outright pinkwashing. Now, pinkwashing would be more along the lines of just, hey, we're a gay friendly company. We are absolutely, committed to diversity and whatnot. Just the whole talk thing. And then there's just outright catering to the ideology. It's not like the gay ideology. It's specifically the progressive leftist ideology.
Yes.
And that's what the problem is, because then it's like suddenly you're absolved of all criticism because, hey, no, we did this for the gays, or we did this for black people, or we did this for whatever underrepresented minority. If you don't like it, that just means you're a racist, sexist, bigoted troll.
Yeah.
Like, fuck that.
It really has nothing to do with the distracting from anything. It really is just a way to make themselves look better. It's a giant virtue signal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And companies are more than happy to do it because they know that there are going to be more than enough people in the press that will get on their knees and fillet them for being progressive when really they don't give a shit. It's just a way to get them. Well, no. I mean, the company doesn't give a shit.
Oh, no, they don't. No, they really don't care. I mean, like maybe some of like the lower level people, like the artists and writers and stuff, maybe they'll care.
But the CEOs don't give a shit.
No, the higher ups absolutely don't. No, they're concerned with making money. And if they want to market a product towards a demographic that is quite literally at maximum 6% of the United States, that's just stupid. That's being a retarded capitalist.
And keep in mind, that's both A, a high number, and B, would include everyone under the LGBT, BBQ, what the fuck ever banner.
Yes, that's literally...
It's a very small group of people.
Yes.
But
it's not...
Yeah, it's... Here was another point that somebody brought up to me. it was oddly enough a gay friend of mine said he's like, this is not 30 years ago, where if you walked down the street and people knew you were gay, they would call you a faggot. And he's like, it seems like every company I go into, there's rainbow flags everywhere, despite the fact I can't get a date in this town. And he's like, we're not oppressed anymore. I'm like, well, yeah, you're not. and that's the thing, is there's a narrative there that they're playing into to keep themselves from getting good press. Meanwhile, as the quartering, as Jeremy has pointed out, is that they're firing people behind the scenes, and they're cleaning house. So yeah, the idea that it's really throwing SJWs a bone, there's some truth to that, but in regards to trying to keep their main line of comics from being corrupted, no, I don't think that's the case. I think that, to be honest with you, that there is the possibility that the exact same thing could happen to the main line of comics. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
I think it's just inevitable at this point. I mean, as the enthusiast press starts to get more and more involved with trying to, I guess, curate the politics of books, stories and whatnot, they're just going to capitulate to that, because that's what they think people want.
Yeah.
I mean, for God's sake, Marvel just announced they're bringing back the Unstoppable Wasp and freaking Iceman, books that got canceled for ridiculously low sales and were just outright hated by longtime fans.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it wouldn't surprise me if they bring back America Chavez or anything like that. And here's, you want to know what the commonality is? Nominated for GLAAD Awards.
Yep. During Pride Month, no less, is when they're saying they're coming back.
Yep.
What a fucking joke.
It's all PR. That's all it is. And the books won't sell again, and they will get canceled again, because nobody gives a shit about Iceman. Nobody gives a shit about Nadia Pym, especially if it's being written by, people who are, more focused on agendas than really writing a solid comic book, which is, Cena Grace and Jeremy Whiteley, down to a T. Like, if Peter David was writing Unstoppable Wasp, maybe I'd be a bit more interested. If they somehow got Chris Claremont to come back and write 6 issues of Iceman, then I'd be interested. But other than that, I don't give a damn, because the books sucked. But it's just there for PR so that they don't get Bleeding Cool writing 20 think pieces about how homophobic C.B. Cebulski supposedly is, but really isn't.
Yeah, I mean, they may as well at this point just change the name of Iceman to the Amazingly Gay Adventures of Iceman.
Basically,
just put it out there. Just call it what it fucking is.
Yeah, just Frozen Bufu, the comic.
Yeah. God, they ruined it. God damn it, they ruined Iceman.
They're gonna incorporate song and dance to the tune of Frozen. Do you want to use a dildo?
Oh my god.
I am a terrible person who ruins childhoods.
Why? Well, yeah, I mean, Marvel, kind of did that already.
Yeah, well, fuck them.
You're gay now, Bobby. You're totally gay. I'm not gay. Yes, you are.
It's the reverse Mike Pence.
The fact that it literally went like that in the comic, I can't believe they actually signed off on that shit.
Yeah, it really was reverse conversion therapy.
Yeah.
It was pretty perturbing.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to politics, because that's all we had for entertainment. All right.
Well, pretty much segued into it anyway.
John Whitesell asks, what's our opinion on the Distribuist's videos on the use of language? I have not watched them yet. I haven't either. They are on my to-do list. He is one guy I still want to have a chat with, and I have not been able to line anything up. But I've had personal issues come up lately that's going to kind of cut down on my output and really want to socialize and talk to people. And I hate to say that, but there's shit I have to get ready for on a personal level, possibly. And it's a mental thing, it's a spiritual thing, and I just don't have time to really talk to anyone. So I hope that if any of our online amigos, especially someone like Aiden, who's been on the show several times, and others, I hope you'll understand that it's just a Hatman can attest to how hard it's about to be. You know, it's going to be a tough time in my life for the foreseeable future. So
yeah, it's not
good.
Not something that I would want to deal with for sure.
Yeah. So needless to say, though, I will definitely watch them, and then once things start to get maybe a little bit better, I would love to have a sit down with the distributist and discuss not just his discussions on language, but I want to talk about his interactions with the alt-right, his interactions with the alt-left, and other things. So, because I find him to be a very interesting individual, obviously very well spoken, obviously very well read. So, yeah. Well, I'll have that conversation. I'll watch those videos in the near future. Le Lagrange Affects Physics asks, can we make SJWs Satanist for the sake of their anti-Christianity stance? I think that would kind of... Okay, so there was a guy who used to watch the podcast on the regular who does not anymore, who... and I'm not saying anything negative about him as a person. I wish he was still with us. But he used to call Democrats Demoncrats, and it was kind of cringy. And here's part of the reason I do not like to compare human beings to Satan or something along those lines unless it's in jest. Is because when you compare someone to absolute evil, the effect of absolute evil is lessened by your use of that term. You know, and it's one way that I'm trying to watch the way that I use positive adjectives as well. Because once something is awe-inspiring, and then a lot of things are awe-inspiring, what does awe-inspiring mean anymore? So, no, let me just put it this way. Many social justice warriors are anti-theists. They do not like Christians. They see Christians as the enemy. They see Christians as patriarchal, ergo the enemy. You know, and so on and so forth. So, call them what they are, because what they are is bad. And call out their ideas for being what they are, and instead of, you know, letting your emotions really put you in a situation where you make a mistake verbally, where suddenly it kind of puts you in a corner. Because when you start calling human beings demons, and they don't possess like the horns of a satyr or something along those lines, you really kind of make yourself look a little crazy. And I hate to say that, but it's just kind of what it is. That's oftentimes why I tell people, keep your emotions in check, and if you're angry, get up and walk around for a bit, because anger really gets you nowhere. It never makes you sound smarter. And people always talk about fight fire with fire. I don't know who came up with that phrase, but they're a dumbass. Fight fire with water. Put it out. That's the smart way to do things. All right.
Before we move on there,
hold on one sec. Can you hear that in the background?
No, I can't.
Okay, my alarm was starting to go off. Never mind. Go ahead.
Okay. But before we move on, I think it's important. We can't. If you are going to refer to them as anti-theists, they'd have to be called hypocritical anti-theists, because keep in mind, usually the ones that are against Christianity are pro-Islam.
It's true.
For some strangers, and some of them are also pro-Judaism, which is especially mystifying considering, you know, the links to Christianity there.
Yeah, not to mention their hate of Israel and anybody who considers himself a Zionist.
Yeah, very. It's odd. That, and also you can only ever really call someone a Satanist if they're like a Levian Satanist, and that's just basically like a religious atheist. That's about as close to a religious atheist as I could come to.
Yeah.
Because Satan worshippers don't really exist much outside of just strange cults. But
okay. Swordsman 100 asks, they say they are doing this for women, but what about the participants that like how things are already being done in Miss America? That's from Swordsman 100. Screw them, apparently.
Yeah. What was that thing about the grid girls from way back when? When they said we're getting rid of them, and all the grid girls were like, why?
Yeah.
We like doing this. Let us have the freedom to choose our own work.
Yeah. It's so interesting how the narrative switches when it comes to feminism. Is that it used to be, oh, it's women's liberation to be out there and be hot and show your skin and all this other stuff. And now it's not liberating and makes women look bad to do that, because lo and behold, men actually like sexy women. How dare us? It's
funny how conservative in some ways it's gotten. I mean, from you can't tell me what to wear. I'm in control of my own body, to women need to cover up because of the male gaze. I mean, I've literally seen a feminist argument say that the hijab or the burqa is actually feminist because it denies men gaze of, well, the male gaze, essentially.
Dear God.
It is absolutely absurd.
Wow.
But, with double standards, they'd have no standards at all.
Basically. All right. Hardboiled Entertainment asks, what's the deal with Dennis Rodman showing off at the Trump and Kim Jong-un meeting? I don't know.
It's Dennis Rodman. What do you expect?
Look, here's what I learned about Dennis Rodman from the second three-peat with the Chicago Bulls. Great at rebounding, not much else. That's really all I can say. Because he was the best rebounder since Moses Malone. It's like, let's be honest. He was very talented. And when he was on the Pistons, he was like... The Pistons back like in the late 80s, early 90s were a team of motherfuckers. If you were playing the Detroit Pistons, you're getting your ass kicked. But this was before the days of like constant flopping. Like when LeBron James acts like a sniper in the 60th row just shot him in the face. I hate basketball these days, and I'm glad LeBron lost. Anyway.
Yeah. Can't beat Michael Jordan.
No.
Still the best player of all time.
Exactly. Eclectic 1995 asks, I remember in the early 2010s that he speaks like it's that long ago. Jeez.
Well, technically it was, man.
I know.
It was again on a decade ago.
Don't remind me. That there was a massive feminist critiques of Disney princesses from the media. So do you think that this is partly why leftists are so prominent at Disney?
I remember that.
I do too. Well, it's still out there. We need a Disney princess who goes to Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
We need a Disney princess who's an NRA member.
We need a Disney princess that packs heat.
Do an Annie Oakley Disney princess movie. I'll watch it.
Oh my God.
Fuck it. Soundtrack by Ted Nugent.
Put Mulan in a time machine and bring her here, put a gun in her hands. She'd probably be the only one who would actually do that shit, too.
But anyway, do you think this is partly why leftists are prominent at Disney? Not really. This is Hollywood, guys.
Yeah.
That's
basically what it is.
It's in California. What do you expect? Here's Jordan Peterson gives this, and I know I reference Dr. Peterson a lot, but he gives this speech where he talks about your personality traits and kind of how it'll determine how you vote. And it's like people who are higher in creativity and agreeableness tend to be liberal or leftist because that they want the world to be a beautiful utopia and whatnot. So, needless to say, those same traits will draw you to the arts. And that's probably why those folks are so prominent at Disney. It's probably why if you work for an insurance company, a lot of people you meet are going to be conservatives. Or you work in like real estate or something like that. You know, that's probably what you're going to run into. But you work for the government, you're going to run into a lot of Democrats. So it's just an industry thing.
I think part of it is also just liberal arts, humanities. Really, I mean it's almost like it comes over from college. You know, you don't really get rid of it.
Yeah.
I mean, like English. You know, I'm working as an editor. I'm in a room full of Democrats. So.
Yep. All right, and then for the final question of the day, God, this half hour went pretty quickly.
Yeah, really.
Do you think there should be law to protect people from the false claims of racism and all things the SJWs accuse us of, and punishes them for false claims with fines and jail time? No, because we already have slander laws.
You can't sue for that. Slander has to be something that is verifiably false.
Yeah, well, verifiably false, and on top of that, you have to have had some sort of monetary damage to self.
Yes.
Or it leads to some damage to
harm.
yourself. So let's paint a scenario. So let's say I go onto not the Joe Rogan Experience. Let's say I go onto the Young Turks, and they're asking me questions about Marvel Comics, and Kyle Kalinske calls me a racist on his show after Jink and I talk. And then next thing I know, I get my ass kicked by a group of like 60 Antifa nerds, because that's probably how many it would take. And then I could sue Kyle Kalinske for lying about me, because I'm not a racist. There's no proof I'm a racist, and it caused me physical harm from that statement. So, or something along those lines. Or
would be
or here's another
defamatory
example.
statement, though, not so much slander.
Okay, well here's another example. Let's say similar scenario, and then somebody who works at the Young Turks calls my day job and gets me fired, saying that I'm a racist, and they don't ask questions, they just fire me like that. I could sue the business, and I could sue the person who said it, because that is slander. Or in libel, or libel is, you know, in print, to quote J. Jonah Jameson. You know, like if somebody like, here's what I find interesting. Don Lemon could have been sued by Donald Trump for calling him a racist on CNN. Because the claim is baseless, to say the least.
Well, the problem is it's opinion based. Like people who usually sue for being called racist and say like it's cost me a job or anything have not done very well at all.
Yeah.
Mostly because it's opinion, but you cannot empirically prove that someone is not a racist or is not a sexist. I mean, this is why it's such a popular card for the left to use, because you're basically done. The immediate defense is like, oh well, I have like black friends or whatever, and then that leads to their argument. That's not an excuse. That's not an argument.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really, because we think, okay, that has to be, because you have to find a way to prove it, but you cannot disprove it once the claim is made.
Can't prove it negative.
So that's why, and at least in court cases, it doesn't work like that. Now, defamation of character, it does a little bit better there, but as far as like slander and libel go, you basically won't get anywhere with that. Needless
to say, though, there's civil law on books to help with that. One thing that I've always said, though, is that things aren't going to change until people start getting sued. I had hoped that the Hulk Hogan case would have set a precedent, but it didn't. So
no.
I think that more...
And it seems like now they're trying to romanticize Gawker more and more with that shit.
Oh, absolutely. They're trying to turn them into martyrs. So needless to say, it's unfortunate that isn't more that can be done, but if you were to do too much, you start taking away people's freedom of speech, and people are free to be stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I have to say about that.
You have a constitutional right to be a dumbass.
Yes. All right, folks, that is it for the questions.
Wow,
so,
that was quick.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to sleep again after I eat my food, and then hopefully, and then we'll have the overflow up soon. If you see this video, keep an eye out for the Comics Crusade coming to my main channel, and on top of that, Micah and The Hatman once again on Saturday. There'll be a lot to talk about politics-wise with the whole North Korea thing. We'll have plenty to talk about entertainment-wise because of E3. Do not miss it. It's going to be a great couple of shows, to say the least. Hatman, any final words before we take off?
Just looking forward to Saturday.
Alrighty. Well, folks, we appreciate you all stopping by. Thank you to our patrons and our subscribers. So until next time, my name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hatman.
And we will see you guys later. Deus Volt.
Deus Volt.